everyone, and welcome to Total Football Talk. Eric and I have been doing a lot of talking, and one of the things that we decided, that's not what I wanted to do, that we decided was that the college football show, we're done with it. We love doing it, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of feedback, not a lot of interest in it, so we're just going to turn our focus to the NFL and do 2 shows a week for NFL. So we're going to do the review of the games this week, today, and then tomorrow we're going to review the games on the docket and go from there. So, needless to say, it's been a fun run. I wish there was more interest in it. We'll maybe revisit it next year as we get more comments, but this is out, and I'll be right back. Eric, take it away.
Yeah, so that is great news for all you NFL fans out there that we're going to go focus solely on the NFL. And, well, I just think it's a really smart decision. Anyways, so with the NFL, we have actually quite a few things to do. We have to review the games and then review the Thursday night game and also talk about the upcoming games as well. But we might do it a little condensed version and then maybe do a second show previewing Sunday's games, because there's already been a week full of games plus a Thursday night game that we need to go about. But also talk a little bit about Drew Brees and his accomplishments and what I would have done if I was Sean Payton.
Okay.
So, where do you want to start?
Well, let's just go from the top. So, in my opinion, we should always go. We already covered the Thursday night game last week. So, I want to get into Tennessee and Buffalo. Because for me, the Tennessee-Buffalo game was interesting on 3 fronts. It was an old-school football game. It was 2 teams playing defense. But every time people start to get set on going with Tennessee, they put a performance up like they did last week against Buffalo. Now, I don't want to take anything away from Buffalo. I don't think the Bills are as bad as people make them out to be. I don't think they're particularly a strong football team. And if you're coming off of back-to-back wins against Jacksonville, actually triple wins, but 2 impressive wins against Jacksonville and Philly, you'd think you could go into Buffalo and at least take care of business a little bit. And that just didn't happen, Eric. And I don't know what the deal is in Tennessee, but I do know what the deal is in Buffalo. It's a long rebuild. I think they got to give their quarterback, like I've always said, 3 years. So start building around him and see what you got. And by year 3, you're going to know if you need to move forward or move on. But there is one other thing I want to talk about with Buffalo. And we'll get into this later after you do your assessment. Well, let me do this first, and then we'll get into that. So my assessment of the game is Buffalo played exactly the way you need to play. They played it close. They played it relatively conservative. But I am really frustrated with the Bills not letting Josh Allen just rip it loose. Let the guy sling it. And I'm not talking throw 60 pass attempts a game. I'm saying put in some deep routes and let him yuck it and see what happens. The guy has a howitzer for an arm, and they're not utilizing it. It's all this dink and doink baloney bullcrap. Tennessee.
Who are you throwing to?
Well, you know what? You've got, what's his name from East Carolina that they picked up.
What's his name from East Carolina? I mean, that really.
The wide receiver that the wide receiver that the Rams wanted to get, but Buffalo snagged him first. I can't remember his name. In the draft,
exactly. So he's not that good.
What?
They also have Kelvin Benjamin. Although he can't work with any quarterback. He seems to kill every quarterback somehow.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying. Yeah, it'd be nice for Josh Allen to rip it down the field, but you need the wide receivers to be able to go get them. And if they can't get themselves up the line, if they can't stop dropping passes, you're not throwing the ball down the field. You're running the ball with LaShawn McCoy, who is a trade candidate who we could get into here a little bit.
Yeah.
You could run the ball with Chris Ivory, okay? He seems to run really hard. You also have to utilize your tight end in Charles Clay, which they're not doing.
No.
So I get it, but when you're waiting for your wide receivers, the pass rush is coming, and your offensive line is breaking down, which means you have to dump it off somewhere.
Yeah. That's good.
But all I really want to say about this game is, will the real Tennessee Titans please stand up? Please. You go out and look like world beaters against Philadelphia and win in overtime, and then you win a clunker in Buffalo. Which is it?
Yeah.
I know you can't win every game, but you need to win the games that you should win. They should have beat Philly, they won. They should have beat Buffalo, and they lost. Yes, I know that happens throughout all of football. I get it. But you need to stay a little consistent as well. And I know you're a big Mike Vrabel fan in Tennessee. So they need to start writing the ship there.
Well, defensively, they're still playing pretty good, and I think that there's some hope there in the sense that Jacksonville doesn't want to win the division. They're playing like they did last year, where they didn't want to win the division and felt relatively disinterested, which we'll get into later. But I don't know. I mean, I think that the Bills are probably going to trade McCoy. I think Philadelphia is a likely landing spot. I think that would be funny. But I don't know. Maybe the Bills don't trade him. He wants to stay in Buffalo. So, we'll see what the Bills end up doing. But Buffalo's got a rebuild going on, and Tennessee should have won this game and didn't. And if you're a Titans fan and you're frustrated, you should be. Talk about being frustrated. How about the Falcon fans out there? The Pittsburgh Steelers are not as good as they played on Sunday. I don't care where they're playing. They're not that good. I don't know. It's like they channeled their inner Steel Curtain defense and decided to show up. Matt Ryan looked like crap. The wide receivers were nowhere to be found. And what was supposed to be a high-scoring shootout was a Pittsburgh domination. I'm still not sold on the Steelers because I saw a lot of guys wide open and not get the ball. I saw a lot of guys wide open and drop the ball. And I saw Matt Ryan getting pressure from people that haven't gotten pressure on the quarterback all year long. So maybe they're getting better, maybe they're improving. But if Atlanta had played a football game instead of a stink fest, I think that game could have been a lot closer. Eric, I'm sure you watched every snap of that game. So take it away.
Unfortunately, this game wasn't on by me. But the Falcons lack depth in their secondary, so they get beaten up. Okay, a lot of deep balls go on them. This was a James Conner game. Okay, the Steelers needed to get James Conner in this game and running well and get him on track. Okay, they want to know if Conner is the future in Pittsburgh because Le'Veon Bell has already stated that he is most likely going to report to the team during their Week 7 bye week. Okay, so James Conner wants to do everything that he can to, make sure that the Steelers rethink their plans when Bell comes back. Like, is it going to be a running back by committee? Is Bell going to be the feature back? Is Conner going to be back on the bench? Who knows at this point? Because, Le'Veon said one thing, but the Steelers said they haven't heard anything. So might as well run James Conner. It was a perfect game for him to run in. Okay? Ben and Brown got back on the same page. Of course, when you're going against a secondary that is missing already 4 starters, you're going to have a lot of wide open guys. And I'm surprised that Vance McDonald did absolutely nothing. I'm surprised that Smith-Schuster was barely around. James Washington didn't even make an impact. It was really Ben, Conner, and Brown. Now the defense still has holes. A lot of holes. Tomlin wasn't a fan of all the penalties again, and they're really starting to mount up for Pittsburgh. It's going to kick their butt in one game. And I'm guessing it's going to be a game on the road this week. But they have a lot of work to do. Again, their defense isn't the same as it has been in years past. They have to be able to outscore everybody. And maybe that's what Pittsburgh's offense needs to do, is just put up a ton of points every week. Ben's elbow right now is balky. He said he's going to rest it a lot during his bye week. but they got one big game coming up before that bye week that he can't really worry about the rest. He's got a big divisional game, and we'll get into that.
All right, I want you to.
The Falcons on the other side of the ball, man. Get Julio involved. Get Sanu involved, and get Ridley involved. That's what they need. They need to put up points. Their offense in Pittsburgh was lacking. They left everything in Atlanta. That's all I got. That's all I really got to say about the Falcons. They are headed toward a top 5 pick, and I wouldn't be surprised if you hear Quinn's name on the hot seat. Hello?
You there?
Hello?
Yeah, you there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry for the dead air. Look, I want to go into, and I actually want you to take this one away because I'm curious what your input is on this. Now, I'm going to say this. I've been a little critical, not of the player himself, but of the coverage that this player has gotten. And I want to give credit where credit is due. This individual played an outstanding game last week. Converting third down, moving the chains, handing the ball off, and letting the running game dominate in a way that, as a Ram fan, I'm looking at it going, oh, bring on Denver. I can't wait for this one. Because if they're going to do that against Denver, what in the tarnation are we going to do against Denver? So I'm a little excited in that regard, but I have to say, Darnold impressed me on 3 fronts for the Jets. Okay? Number one.
Quarterback ever.
Here we go again. You know, his drop back is unlike any I've ever. Okay, all kidding aside. The 3 things that impressed me this week about Aaron Darnold, about Sam Darnold. I just combined two. I shipped people I didn't mean to. About Sam Darnold is this. Sam shows a real good ability of shaking things off. Now, that can be a good thing and that can be a bad thing. Let me explain. Old Butt Fumble never seemed to care about throwing an interception. That was good, except Old Butt Fumble didn't remember why he threw the interception and kept throwing them. So with Darnold, I like I screwed up, whatever, next play, different down, let's do this mentality. He has a really good knack for knowing when to get the ball out of his hands to avoid the big loss. And so far, Eric, I don't know how many games of Sam Darnold you've seen. I've seen a few of them now. He doesn't leave his wide receivers out to dry. Have you noticed that?
I have, yes. But he still, makes the rookie quarterback mistake.
That's going to happen. That's a given. But real quick, because the reason I say that is that's not a small thing. As a wide receiver, you start to get trust in your quarterback that wherever he puts the ball, there's a reason he's putting the ball there. And you're going to be more inclined to go get it rather than putting your head on a swivel. As long as he keeps that up, I think receivers are going to trust him. So those 3 things I noticed. Look, the Jets dominated this game. There's really not a lot to say. They were a better team. They dominated from whistle to whistle. And I don't know why people are talking about Denver's defense if that's what they're going to put on the field. Your take.
Denver just didn't show up in my opinion. I mean, they were getting beat on the ground. Where's Von Miller? Where's Bradley Chubb? Where's the whole Denver defense? Case Keenum isn't the type of quarterback to where you get down by 14, 20 points, somewhere around there, and he's going to lead you back. He had a couple games last year in Minnesota where, they weren't down by as many, but they came back and won. But, he doesn't have the capability to do that. So what they need to do is they need to have the bend, don't break mentality on defense. And they didn't have that. Carwell went for 219 rushing yards against Denver. And who does Denver have next? I don't care what the weather is going to be like in Denver, okay? Isaiah Crowell is not on the same level as a Todd Gurley, as a Le'Veon Bell,
Nope.
as a Kareem Hunt, as an Ezekiel Elliott. He's not. He's not. He looked like a Hall of Fame running back in that game. Not to mention blown coverage for Robbie Anderson, who was like, hey, guess what? I'm open. Nobody's covering me. Don't overthrow me. Great. Touchdown. Thank you.
Yeah.
It was pitiful. Vance Joseph should be ashamed of that defense. Vance Joseph is a defensive side of the ball guy. I would be worried if I'm Denver.
Oh, for sure.
And I would also be looking at quarterbacks coming out in the draft, because I don't think that they have, I believe, Chad Kelly as a backup. I don't think Chad Kelly is all that great from watching him in his old mistakes. So they should be evaluating everything on the offensive side of the ball. They have some good running backs. They have Philip Lindsay. They got Royce Freeman. There's not going to be a bell cow down. Sanders and Thomas are getting older, so I know they're going to be in the market for some wide receivers. But, man, you got to start learning how to stop the ball. And Denver's been incapable of doing that in quite a few games this year.
Well, I don't think Denver has a particularly strong running back crew either. There's a lot of problems in Denver. They don't have wide receivers. They don't have a running back, in my opinion. Lindsey, they don't have an O-line, and their defense, it consists of two guys on the outside. But you can double team and chip that and get the quick pass out and pick apart that defense. The Denver Bronco fans need to realize two things. Number one, throw out the uniforms, bring back the blue helmet with the orange D and the white face mask, okay? Let's start there, and let's rebuild this thing totally over again. Because Denver's got more holes in it than the Titanic. Okay, and it's sinking faster than the HMS Hood. So they got to figure this out and understand where they're at. I'm not saying tank the season. By any means am I saying that, because I don't believe in doing that. You play to win the game, right? I agree, Herm. I agree. So what you really need to do is these guys that are second and third on the depth chart, you need to find out if they're really second or third on the depth chart. I'm not saying wholesale in. You might have an Emmanuel Sanders and your third wide receiver playing the second spot. Keep running this Lindsey kid, because, with running backs, you only need to give them a year, right? You look at the whole season and you go, okay, do we have it or don't we? Running backs are so much easier to evaluate than any other position, because the game either comes instinctually to you or you have to work hard at it. If you have to work hard at it, you're able to apply it and learn it. One of the things that I was never a great athlete, but by my second year of playing running back, I learned if there's 8 guys in the box, where's that safety lined up? If that safety's lined up in between the ends, I'm taking it outside. If the safety's lined up outside of the end and the outside linebacker's playing outside of the end, then I'm going to look for the hole off tackle. Okay? If they're covering the outsides with 2 middle linebackers in the middle, I'm taking it up the gut. You can run against an 8-man front. You just have to study and learn where to run against the 8-man front. We'll see if Lindsey has that. Give him the year. See what you got. Move on. I'll tell you a team that I would like to see land Le'Veon Bell, and that's Denver. If the Broncos got Bell, and this is what I would do if I was Denver, okay? I would wait till the season was over, and I'd see if he hit the free agent market. I'd throw him a crap ton of money. I would draft a quarterback, probably in the, I would trade Emmanuel Sanders to get a first-round pick. Probably be a late first-round pick. I would draft a lineman and a quarterback. I'd groom the quarterback for the next 2 years, unless I felt like he was ready. And I would really aggressively in free agency attack the defense side of the ball to help those two ends. Because if you have an okay offensive line with Le'Veon Bell, a quarterback like Case Keenum who can manage the game, your wide receivers, as long as they can catch the football, okay, you don't necessarily need them to be the scorers. You've got Le'Veon Bell for that. I think Denver's not a 5-year rebuild. I think it's a 2-year rebuild, a 3-year rebuild. But I would argue that Denver needs to do 3 things. Change the uniforms. Do what I just said. And most importantly, fire this head coach. He's not the answer in Denver. Period. So, I don't know. I don't think it's far away for the Broncos. I think it's maybe a 3-year rebuild. But they got to get the right coach in the right spot. As far as the Jets go, I really, really am starting to like Todd Bowles. I think he doesn't say anything. He doesn't do anything to really ruffle feathers, but his players play hard for him, and he really knows how to orchestrate a good defensive game plan against weak quarterbacks, and we saw that against Denver. And yes, I'm saying Case Keenum is a very, very weak quarterback. So, I don't know. I think Bowles is pretty solid in New York. But I think they need to kind of figure things out from here.
Yeah, they gotta get Bowles more weapons.
Yeah.
On the defensive and offensive side of the ball. I mean, you got your quarterback in the future. You're gonna ride or die with him. You can go with the 2-headed running back committee. Maybe they look for a true number 1 wide receiver, but also shore up that defense too.
Maybe they trade for Emmanuel Sanders. You give a number 1 pick to the Broncos for Emmanuel Sanders. You've got that.
The Broncos are laughing all the way to the bank because you're never going to get a number 1 for Emmanuel Sanders.
Well, I wouldn't say just Emmanuel Sanders if you can get something in return for it. I mean, I don't know. I would have to look at the Broncos roster and see what else you could get. But I would be more than willing to trade a number 1 for 2 starters from another football team and start to get this kid weapons to play with. I don't know, because I like the running backs. I don't think they need to necessarily go after a Le'Veon Bell, or they won't get LaShawn McCoy anyway because Buffalo wouldn't trade him within the division. But I don't know. To me, trading your number 1 draft pick if you're a mid-round team isn't necessarily a bad idea unless there's a guy you're in love with. And trust me, I'm going to tell you guys out there right now, these coaches, they're in love with somebody at this point. If they're not in love with somebody now, it's not going to happen later. They've been watching college football. They know who they're looking at. So unless there's somebody out there that you're absolutely in love with that you need to get in the first round, I don't have an issue trading a number 1 draft pick to another team and getting a bunch of starters in return, 2 or 3 guys, 2 starters and a depth guy. I think is a fair trade, don't you?
Safer maybe, but you don't know how Denver, you don't know how the Jets or anybody else feel about trading their assets.
No, you don't. But you don't know unless you ask. I'm just saying. I think the Jets could go that route, and if Denver wants to turn around and do what I said they want to do, that would be the team that more than likely you could probably get a first-round pick from, or somebody like that. Because you don't want a 32nd or 31 overall, because that's basically a second-round pick. Unless you want to couple that to move up with 2 first-round picks, meaning trade yours and the one you got to move up. There's a bunch of different ways you can make that work. Jacksonville, it can't.
And now we spend too much time on the New York Jets of all teams.
I know, right? Look, Jacksonville, Kansas City. Kansas City's a tough place to play. I said it, and I meant it, that this was going to be the game for me that would make or break my position on the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm impressed. And I do think that the Chiefs, they're a good football team. It's 5 weeks in. I've seen this with an Andy Reid team before. You get off to a 5-0 start, and you end up 11-5, 10-6. I'm going to wait and see on that front. But there's no question that Mahomes is a legitimate football player, and he's here to stay, and that Kansas City football team can play defense now. Granted, Jacksonville isn't known for their defense, and I would have loved to see Jacksonville with Leonard Fournette as opposed to without him. But this was a big win for Kansas City, and they got another big matchup this week against New England. So I was impressed. We'll see what the Chiefs do from here. But this was a big win for Kansas City. And make no mistake about it, it was a big loss for Jacksonville. As I said before, Jacksonville needs to quit playing the regular season like they're the friggin' New York Yankees, and they can afford to be disinterested and then just turn on in the postseason. They don't have LeBron James. They don't have that option. Play football, get yourself in a position where you can host a playoff game besides the wild card round. Right now, my Super Bowl pick looks pathetic. And I'm not saying they look pathetic because they lost to Kansas City. I mean, coupled with the Tennessee loss, coupled with this loss, coupled with the way they've looked in other games, I'm a little nervous about Jacksonville. Are you?
Going down the road in a tough environment, no, I'm not. Because Jacksonville has a lot of other upcoming games coming to them as well. Like later on this year, they get the Steelers at home. Okay, and I think that's another good test for Jacksonville. Only because, and I say this because not only did they go in there twice last year and beat them up at Pittsburgh, now they get them at their own home place. And Pittsburgh's offense is going to come out, but I want to see Jacksonville's defense perform. I'm excited to watch Jacksonville's defense in that game. They get the Titans again. They also get the Texans. They get the Colts. So they have time to make it up. And I think Kansas City is not going to keep this up throughout the season.
Okay.
I think they're playing on borrowed time. They're doing it against the right teams right now, but you can't keep up giving the yards and the points per game that they've been giving up and to keep winning. That's unsustainable.
Well, they look good defensively against Jacksonville.
Well, Jacksonville left their whole team in London.
What do you mean London? They haven't been in London yet.
It don't matter. They left their team in London.
What are you talking about? They don't go to London until Philly in week 8, you dork.
They left their team in London. Anyways, for me, it's a blip on Jacksonville's radar. Kind of like the Tennessee game, but the Tennessee game to me held a little bit more weight. Yes, this game is going to come down. The playoffs are going to come down to seeding, and obviously Jacksonville losing to Kansas City, could have a big impact on seeding, but Jacksonville beat New England. So, and if New England beats Kansas City, everybody's kind of on level playing field again. Okay, now if Kansas City goes into New England and wins, then the tide is turning in the AFC, and we'll get into all that here, as we go forward. But Jacksonville, no, not really. It doesn't concern me that much that they lost in Kansas City, or that their defense isn't known as Saxonville anymore. But they still have a lot of good depth. Kelvin Smith is a really good linebacker that he can right the ship for Jacksonville on that side of the ball. And what they really need is they need Fournette to be healthy. I think that gives them a really good rushing offense. But don't take anything away from TJ Yeldon. However, teams can game plan for Yeldon and take him out pretty easily.
So here's my deal with Jacksonville. Okay? You keep mentioning London. So I heard an article. I was reading an article today. It was posted sometime last week about all these London games. And there seems to be a foregone conclusion among the fans in London that the Jaguars will eventually move there.
I don't doubt it.
Okay. So let me ask you two questions. All right? And then I'm going to make two statements that are probably going to surprise some people. Number one question. Does that mean that the NFL will eventually expand to 34 teams and try to return a team to Jacksonville? Or do you think they're capping it at 32 and they're just trying to find the right places to put teams?
You can't have one team in Europe and call it a day. So when Jacksonville moves, I don't believe that they will replace a team in Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville becomes, again, the number one site for the Florida-Georgia college football game, and they leave it at that. I don't think it's a big enough city to where an NFL franchise is going to thrive, and I know they've been there since
96.
96.
Yep.
Okay. They don't draw like the Panthers do. And I know Jacksonville's had success. Listen, the second year for both teams, because they came in at the same time, they both went to the championship game.
And Eric, we were wrong. Really quick, we were wrong. Both came in 95. 96, they made the playoffs.
95 is when they went to the 96 is when they went to the
championship games.
Their respective conference championship games. Carolina's been to the Super Bowl. Jacksonville hasn't. So, you know, they don't sell out in Jacksonville. I mean, they have an owner who wants to do well there, but he sees the writing on the wall. Okay, and I believe that Shah Khan also has stake in soccer in England as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know the Glazer family does in Tampa. I believe they own part of Manchester United.
Yep.
I think Shah Khan does have some stake in soccer across the pond. So I wouldn't doubt that they have one relocated team. They expand one team to Europe. Whether that's another team in England or somewhere else, that remains to be seen.
I'll tell you where I think in a minute.
But then they also have to add another team in the States because just to make teams even, to make the number of teams even again. And where that is, don't be surprised if it's Oakland.
I disagree.
Don't be surprised if it's back in San Diego.
That's where I think it's going to go.
Don't be surprised if it's in San Antonio.
San Diego.
Okay. So one of those three locations, you could almost bank on an NFL team going or being expanded to.
Here's what I think, Eric. Here's my second question. Where do you put the two teams from London?
Well,
do you put them in the AFC South? The AFC North? The East? They certainly don't belong in the West.
That's the dilemma I believe the NFL is looking over. Maybe you have an international division where, you know, again, you play 2 home games in a row, then you go to the States for 2 weeks so you don't have all that back and forth. And sometimes, and maybe they're in the same division, so they play each other twice, so that limits their travel as well. And then if it does well there, you can add 2 more teams to make it another division.
I don't think they'll do that.
I mean, they already play at Wembley Stadium, which, you know, there's been a lot of games that have played at Wembley Stadium. They've upgraded those facilities. And okay, I'm going to get a little soccerish on you because I've actually been reading up on some of the renovations that have been going on in England. There is a team called the Tottenham Hotspurs, and they play in a brand new facility that they've also retrofitted for football. So there are 2 likely places they would be able to play, no problem. And they're, I'm not sure exactly how many miles apart they are, but they're a good enough amount of distance where it doesn't fall within the NFL football parameters outside of the 2 LA teams and the 2 New Jersey teams. And I say New Jersey because that's where they play.
Okay. So here's what I think. And I genuinely believe this. I don't know where they put them. I don't. I don't have an answer there. You could theoretically.
It's a good question, though.
I'll go through a scenario that I think is possible. I think Jacksonville does go to London. I think San Diego goes to Oakland. They're not going to stay in LA. Spanos is from the Oakland area. I believe they're going to be the Oakland Chargers one day. I think the NFL could, theoretically, if they were to expand, I think would be stupid. 34 teams is too many. But if they were to do that, then I think they would put a team in Barcelona. And I think they would put a team in San Diego. What I think is another likely scenario is that the Chargers are told, you're allowed to leave LA, but you got to go to London or somewhere in Europe.
Yeah, that'll never happen. They won't go that far.
I mean, that's the only way to make it work if the Jags go to London.
I hear you about Barcelona, okay? And that's actually not a bad location. They have a really good stadium, Olympic Stadium.
Yep.
That may just need to get renovated, but they've never played football there.
Yeah, they did. The Barcelona Fire in the World Football League played there.
No, I'm not talking European football league. I'm talking NFL. The NFL would want to play at these locations for a few years before they decide to say, hey, this will be a good fit.
Eric, it's a natural rivalry.
They also want to see what kind of attendance they would get from people in Spain. There's a lot more that goes into it than saying, hey, we're going to put a team in Barcelona. People might be like, man, we'd rather go watch bullfight.
Well, this is true.
You know, we'd rather watch Messi than watch football.
This
We'd
is true.
rather watch our football than football.
True. All right. I will say this. If the Jags do go to London and they change their name to the Monarchs, they will be my favorite AFC team. I'm calling that right now.
Wasn't the London Monarchs a World Football League team?
Yeah, and their uniforms were sick. They were awesome. Anyway, we spent a lot of time there. Let's move on. Green Bay at Detroit. Eric, man, I'm giving you, first of all, everyone right now, give them a round. You were probably the only person this week that said that the Lions could and might beat Green Bay. And you called it. So, Eric, tell us what you saw in that game and why you went that way and what your takeaway was from the Lions-Packer game.
You know, sometimes you look at history and it's like, Green Bay went on this miraculous run of beating Detroit so many times, and if Detroit was on a 2-game winning streak against the Packers, hadn't happened, and hadn't beat the Packers 3 straight since the 90-91 seasons. Okay? Now, here's why I figured that Detroit had a really good chance of winning. Aaron Rodgers on carpet. Now, I know that Rodgers had a great day passing. He had over 400 yards passing, a few touchdowns. He just didn't have his normal plethora of wide receivers. So that hurt him a little bit. He fumbled the ball. He had a strip sack on him as he was rolling out to his right. He just didn't look like the Aaron Rodgers of rolling out that you all know and have come to watch. Green Bay also went away from its running game in the second half. Now, they had time in the third quarter to control a little bit more of the clock and run the ball with Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones looked great in the first half. Didn't touch the ball once in the second half. That's a problem. That's Mike McCarthy football for you.
Yeah.
However, when your kicker misses 4 field goals and an extra point, I'm sorry, you're not winning. You're not winning at all. I don't care that he hit a field goal with 2 seconds left in regulation, and they went on and kicked an onside kick. I don't care. You know, no, that's all great for his confidence. What would have happened if he would have missed that 5th kick, that 5th field goal?
Yeah.
That's a great question. We don't know because it didn't happen. Detroit played great offensively. I am tipping my cap to Matthew Stafford for having one of the greatest games in the last few years that I've seen him have. And Kenny Golladay is a freaking beast. And Marvin Jones, who caught a touchdown, Golden Tate really wasn't around and didn't have much of an impact.
Jameson.
But Golladay is going to be a really good wide receiver in this league for years to come.
I agree.
And he is special.
I agree.
Detroit did everything they could They played really good defense. Yes, Green Bay came back. Yes, they scored 23 points. Yes, it was more like 20 because of the field goal with 2 seconds left in the game. But, you know, Detroit's defense bent a little bit, did not break at all. Like, I've seen Detroit defenses come out and give up 24-point leads, and that's the lead that they had at halftime. It was 24-0. They outworked Green Bay. They wanted the ball more than Green Bay. Green Bay didn't score because their kicker missed 2 field goals in the first half, where it could have been a big difference. If you miss all 4 of those missed field goals on the extra point, it's a 36-30 game, Green Bay. And then we don't know what kind of Detroit offense that we see, if they fold under the pressure or not.
Right.
They didn't let the mindset of, we're playing the Packers, get into their heads. They said, we're going to go play Detroit Lions football. It's a different era of Detroit Lions football. I'm not saying it's championship football, but it's a different era with Stafford when he's on his game.
You know,
they had the defense to be able to stop Rodgers, and they did when they needed to.
What we're seeing right now, guys, if you and I genuinely believe this. I think what we're seeing right now is a changing of the guard. I think the Cleveland Browns are a head coach away from being a really good football team. I think Marvin Lewis has been rejuvenated, and I don't think he's going to retire at the end of this year. I mean, unless the Bengals win the Super Bowl or get to the Super Bowl, I don't see Marvin Lewis retiring. Keep in mind, I'm going to say something here, Eric. Remember I said this now. The next head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals, John Harbaugh from Baltimore. I'm calling it. Now, we're seeing the Browns start to get good again. We're seeing the Bengals start to meander through this thing. We're seeing the Chiefs starting to really figure things out with the team they have. Jacksonville's coming on. In the NFC, the Rams are coming on. The Lions seem to be... I'm starting to become a real fan of this Lions head coach, Matt Patricia. I was hard on him after week 1, but I saw what he did against New England, and I see what he's doing, and the players are responding. Green Bay is old at quarterback. They're old at wide receiver, or not talented, I should say, at wide receiver. They're old at the head coach. He's outdated, and he's starting to get vanilla. I think the Bears and Lions are going to restore their 1950s rivalry. I think that the Rams are going to be the beast that they were in the 70s, minus the Viking cowboy problem. I think you're seeing a changing of the guard of some of these elite teams, and I'm excited for it. What I saw in this Lion game, and I watched some of it, and Galladay, it's going to be Cooks and Galladay as my starting wide receivers moving forward in fantasy. I am not going to bench either one of them. I'll do matchups with Ridley and Tyler Boyd, my other 2 wide receivers, but those are my guys. Moving on. And I think the Lions, look, they're going to be a 6 or 7 win team this year. I believe that. But it's moving forward what they can do from here, because Matthew Stafford is only, 32, 33?
Checking on that right now, actually.
I don't think he's in his mid-30s yet. So they have time on him, which is why they paid him the big money. The Lions, to me, if they can get... I really want them to do 2 things. I want them to focus on defense in the next draft.
He's 30.
I told you. He's young. I want them to focus on defense in the next draft. And I want them to really give this kid at running back a legitimate shot at 1,000 yards. See what he can do this year. Because, Eric, you didn't pay Matthew Stafford to throw the ball. You paid Matthew Stafford to win you Super Bowls. I'll stick with that. I know that's been an ongoing argument for me.
I guess you can say that, yeah. When you get to the playoffs once every, 5 years.
Right. Right. Look, I don't disagree with that. But Caldwell is recycled dog crap that's never been any good, ever. He benefited from having... You want to know how good Caldwell is? See him with Peyton Manning. See him without Peyton Manning. That's the kind of coach he is. Matt Patricia is a different animal, and I want to see what he can do in Detroit. I think the future looks bright for Detroit. For Green Bay, look, the Packers had a great run, but I think they're about to hit the mid-70s, late 80s, early 80s. Well, the mid-70s and the entire 80s type of era that the Packers had for a while there, where
that would be wonderful.
They're about to, because they're not doing anything to improve their football team, and that GM is awful. So I know, Eric, that excites you as a Bear fan. I'm telling you, that's the direction Green Bay is going in. Now, they'll be back, but not for a while.
What I was going to say, I want to let everybody know, in this game against Detroit, Aaron Rodgers, who is 35 years old, okay, just passed the 40,000-yard passing mark. Now, that may not sound like much because Drew Brees is now the all-time leading passer as he passed Peyton Manning. He's got over 72,000. I did the math. If Drew Brees retired today, and I'm going to make it even at 72,000, okay? Aaron Rodgers, he throws for over 4,000 yards a year, but let's use 4,000. He would need 8 more years, averaging 4,000 yards per year to even get to 72,000 yards.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers is not playing 8 more years, guys.
No, he's not.
He's not.
All right, I want to move to a game that I thought was so fun to watch. Cleveland against Baltimore. Now, guys, for those of you that don't know, okay, my AFC team is the Browns. It has been ever since the Patriots cheated against the Rams. See, when I was a kid, it used to be Rams, Patriots, Redskins, Browns. Because I grew up in the 80s, and I rooted for the Browns. After the Patriots cheated, it became Rams, Redskins, Browns. No one else. And the Browns and Ravens is a real rivalry because the Ravens are the old Browns. And this Brown team is an expansion team from 99 that was able to keep their history and their logo and all that stuff. I got the feeling watching this game for the first time ever, Eric, tell me if you agree or disagree, ever, that this starts to feel like a rivalry.
Not yet. Give it another 2 games.
Okay. I'm just watching this game, the intensity. The Ravens actually played like it mattered, and the Browns actually played like they were pissed that that was their old selves. And it was fun to watch, and it came down to, I think, a deflected kick. Otherwise, it was the ugliest game-winning field goal in the history of professional football.
I thought it was deflected, too. They replayed it. Nobody touched it.
That is
it was that bad of a kick.
Oh, my God. You talk about the God smiling on you for a day. That kick was it. 12-9, you know, I mean, it wasn't the best game in the world, but and it had its moments where, look, guys, I told you the week before or a few weeks ago that 9-6 Titans-Jag game was a great game. This was not a great 12-9 game. This was a game where you understand why the NFL wants offense because they don't want games like this. I get it. It was ugly, but it was efficient, and it was beautiful in its brutality. Not that there were big hits because they're not allowed to do that anymore, but every yard was a street fight. And it just, you didn't know who was going to win the game. So I tip my hat to both teams. I liked it, but I like slugfests. I like slobber knockers. I like those games where every first down matters, every punt has significance, every turnover is crippling, every play call is precise, or you're done. In those games, usually it's not in a 56-55 game, but they're always in a 9-6, 12-9 type game. So kudos to the Browns. Great game. Baker did what he had to do. The Browns are starting to run the ball a little bit. That defense for Cleveland, they lead the league in turnovers, Eric. We're 5 weeks in, they lead the league in turnovers. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, we'll see if they keep up. Do you remember what kind of team I called Baltimore last year?
No.
I called them Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah.
They showed up again. These are the games that Baltimore needs to win to keep pace at the top of the AFC North. They keep playing like this, John Harbaugh won't be coaching anywhere next year.
Oh, he will.
Because I'll tell you who the Cincinnati Bengals' next head coach is going to be. And that's after Marvin Lewis decides to hang up in 2 years. And that's their offensive coordinator, Bill Lazor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Baltimore, listen, this game was sloppy. Turnovers, bad passes, dropped passes. Michael Crabtree, I'm looking at you. Jarvis Landry picked it up in the second half. He's been a great addition to the Browns. The Baker Mayfield will only get better. It's going to be a trying year in Baltimore, okay? But they're not going to be that walkover team that everybody's used to. Listen, they have a revenge game coming up this coming up week. And it's more of a revenge game for the Chargers because they were there 2 years ago on Christmas Eve and lost to the Browns. That was the first win in the Hugh Jackson era. Hugh Jackson is going to see this team through this year, finish at 4-12 or 5-11, and then the next head coach is going to take this Browns team to the next level. It won't happen with him, but they have the pieces in place. They have a great safety that they drafted in Denzel Ward. He's been making plays since week 1. Since he stepped on the field in minicamp. They have Jarvis Landry that they decided to pay. They've been getting rid of headaches. They got rid of Corey Coleman. They got rid of Josh Gordon. Because I don't think that they could have trusted Gordon any more than they did, so they shipped him off. They have running backs Carlos Hyde and Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb's ready to take over whenever Hyde decides, hey, I'm done. He's got a 3-year deal, but he's not going to be there all 3 years. They have a very underrated tight end in David Njoku. They have guys on defense, Jabril Peppers, that they can plug in anywhere in the secondary and not miss a beat. They just need to now fill the hole and get the right guys around Baker Mayfield and the right head coach who wants to work with Baker Mayfield. And I see that because when the Bears went out and hired Matt Nagy didn't have a chance to talk with Mitch Trubisky at the combine, okay? But as soon as Trubisky went in and sat in Kansas City, Matt Nagy had detailed notes and he brought those to the meeting with the Bears before he got hired. So this is what I wrote down about Mitchell Trubisky. Very detail oriented. That head coach will need to be detail oriented with Baker Mayfield and that Cleveland Brown team. Okay? Browns are not far away. They're gonna make some noise in the AFC North very soon. And it could be as soon as next year.
Yeah. But
I'm going to give it 2 more years, and as long as it'll be 2 years after Hugh Jackson is gone from the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
Because that's what they need to do.
The next game on the docket is the Giants at Carolina. I picked Carolina to win this game. Carolina at home is a legitimately good football team. The Giants, look, Saquon Barkley is every bit as good as we thought he was going to be coming out of college. I think he's a once. Guys, for those of you that are young, let me tell you what Saquon Barkley is, because many of you probably don't remember who he is. Saquon Barkley is Emmitt Smith. You want to know what Emmitt Smith looked like in a uniform when he played football, except he's a little shorter? You see it in Saquon Barkley. Emmitt Smith was an underrated pass receiver. Saquon Barkley is not. Emmitt Smith was a well-documented blocker. Saquon Barkley is underrated in his blocking. He hasn't been asked to do it much. But they are the same runner. They will look for a lane and hit it, and they are faster than you think they are, even though you know they're fast. And if they have to run you over, they get their trucking license weekly. This guy is the future in New York. Their head coach, Pat Shurmur, Giant fans, I'm telling you, you've got your coach. Calm down. Calm down. Shurmur's the answer in New York. Odell Beckham Jr., trade him. Trade him.
I'd have to re-sign that contract.
Trade him. Here's how you trade him. You demand a 1. You demand a 2 next year. So this is what I would do. I want a number 2 draft pick next year, 2nd round pick, and I want a 1st round pick the following year. And in return, we'll eat $10 million of that salary for this year. $5 million the next year, and then we're done with them. You take on the rest of the salary. Oh, by the way, we want a lineman in return. So,
yeah, they have one. His name is Nate Solder. I'm sure he's really thrilled that he left New England for the
no. Look, what I'm saying is you need more than a left tackle. Give me a guard, give me a center, give me a guard, give me a tackle. I got my left tackle. If the Giants do that, and I'll do you one better, Eric. I think he is. I think Nate Solder is happy because I think he knows what kind of a back Saquon Barkley is, and he's never had the joy of blocking for somebody like that. Now, what about quarterback? Well, the Giants have 2 first-round picks this year. Am I correct?
Who'd they get their second first-round pick from?
Didn't they trade in this last draft to get a second first-round pick?
Not to my knowledge,
okay.
Because they drafted Saquon and they didn't trade back.
That's right. So they're going to have another high pick this year. You get your quarterback.
Top 5.
Oh, for sure. You get your quarterback this year, and you work with it. You work with it.
Now, this quarterback class coming out isn't rated to be a high quarterback class like the previous 2 years. Okay.
The quarterback. Look. Eric, I'm going to stop you right here. The quarterback for the Maine Black Bears, okay?
No, stop it.
Hold on. I'm going to pull him up. I'm going to pull him up right now because I want to make sure that I'm talking about the right guy. Okay. What is going on? Okay.
I'm turning this off.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Maine QB. All right. So, I think it's Ryan Walsh, but I'm not sure. All right. It's Chris Ferguson. Chris Ferguson. He's an athlete. Okay? You get him in the 2nd round. You draft yourself a starting quarterback in the 1st round. You use Ferguson as a backup, literally a backup and a backup plan, and you can use him a lot like they're using Jackson. Huh?
Who's he backing up?
Whoever they draft in the 1st round.
Good luck selling that to John Mara. I'd love to hear that conversation.
Hey, because here's the thing. You can use Ferguson as a wide receiver. You can use him as an X. You can use him as a second back out of the backfield. The kid's an athlete. He's a lot like Jackson from Louisville. Okay? Except he doesn't have the stage that Jackson had at Louisville. Okay? And he has played against top-ranked competition. Central Michigan, Eastern Kentucky. You know, his freshman year, I think they played against Pitt. So, I mean, he's got experience against D1 teams. I'm not saying he's your solid answer, but you do what I think what the Redskins did, getting RG3, the guy they thought was the future, and Kirk Cousins was brilliant. Because you had 2 solid plans there. All right? It's an idea. If you get a lineman in the 1st round, you could theoretically try and get Ferguson in the 2nd. But you're at risk of really, you're taking a chance on a D2 FCS kid. So, the other kid, the quarterback for North Dakota State, North Dakota State, they've been tearing it up. They're good. So, I mean, you've got opportunities to get quarterbacks other than, and this is the point that I'm getting at. Here's why I bring this up, Eric. I am sick and tired of people thinking the only place to get a starting quarterback is out of these big colleges. If the quarterback class this year is weak at that level, then start looking at the other levels. They play football too. And I'm sorry, but quarterback, all you have to be able to do is show accuracy, consistency, and leadership. Tom Brady had those aspects in Michigan and started but 1 year. Mitchell Trubisky played 12 games in college, showed those assets. So you can't tell me a guy that has 4 years of playing experience at the FCS level, over 50 games or 40 games, you can't see those skills in that player either. So yeah, maybe don't waste a first-round pick on him. Although, if you're low enough in the draft, you might. Although I still think that would be stupid because you'll definitely get him in the second round. But I would spend a second-round pick on a quarterback like that. And there's about 3 quarterbacks right now in the FCS level that I would do it. Maine's quarterback, I like the kid at North Dakota State, and the kid from James Madison. So you got 3 quarterbacks right now that could be on your roster and may surprise you. This isn't an exact science. You take chances where you can. Can the Giants afford to take chances with Eli Manning? Eric, answer the question.
Well, you're 1-5. What do you have to lose?
Yeah.
So, listen, going back to the Carolina game, the Giants showed a lot of character. They lost on a 63-yard field goal. I look at that, I tip my cap to Graham Gano, and I said, you made the kick, great job.
Yeah.
That's really, not every day a 63-yard field goal is kicked.
No, not every day indeed.
Okay. You know, it's not like it's a chip shot field goal or an extra point.
Right.
Tip your cap. Hey, you know what? He beat us with a 63-yard field. What else can I say? You know, the Panthers are getting a big weapon back this week, and they missed them the last few weeks. Ian Thomas has filled in admirably for Greg Olsen. Greg Olsen is due back their next game. You know, as you said, the Panthers are tough to beat at home. They are. They're a much different team when they play at home as opposed to on the road. You can say that for a lot of teams.
Yeah.
Giants play with a lot of heart. They played inspired football for some reason.
Yeah, and then you turn around and you look at the Thursday night game and you're like, WTF, Giants, what's going on?
They played a clunker. Listen, you need to be able to talk to Eli and come out with something that says, hey, Eli is retiring at the end of the season. There's no way he's going to be their starting quarterback next year. He looks awful. He has perfected the Peyton Manning, I didn't do it face. It's not my fault face. Perfected it to a T. It's like the Arizona Stare.
Yeah.
You see an Eli Manning face, you're like, oh wow, he learned that one from Peyton pretty easily.
Yeah.
Okay. So you need to come out and say something like, "This is Eli's last year." Listen, if Eli retires or if they cut Eli after the season, okay, the Giants will have $6.5 million in dead money. Okay, on their cap. Listen, I'm ready to eat that $6.5 million myself.
Yeah.
Man, do they look bad against the Eagles?
And that's why I can't get high on the Giants. It's like, yeah, they look good against Carolina, and I don't have an answer why, but the Giants we saw against Philly is the Giants team we've seen all year long.
Right. And you know their biggest distraction right now is Odell. He left with 2 seconds on the clock in the
Trade him.
game, saying that he needed an IV. I don't buy it.
Trade him.
I mean, I don't think I would have signed him to that deal. I probably would have let him walk.
I mean, I agree.
Obviously got nothing in return, but to me, let me ask you a question. From a football sense, when the Bears signed Jay Cutler to the contract extension right before their GM got fired the year later, or Odell Beckham Jr.'s extension, which one would you rather have had?
God, really? You're going to make me choose between those two?
Yes. Which contract would you have rather had? Would you have rather had the quarterback, or would you have rather had the wide receiver?
The wide receiver.
Me too.
Because you could trade. If you watched any of the Thursday night game, and I know we're jumping from the Carolina game to the Philly Giant game, and you watch any of the throws that Eli threw to Odell Beckham, they didn't travel more than 7 yards. He had 6 catches for 44 yards. A lot of those were yards after the catch by Odell. And it's because the Eagles cornerbacks were playing soft coverage. That's where Odell got a lot of his yards. He only had 12 yards receiving in the first half alone. Okay, Eric, I'm going to say something here that's probably going to ruffle some feathers. Okay? But you guys appreciate this about us. It's our brutal honesty. Okay? I would take Cooper Kupp over Odell Beckham Jr. 10 out of 10 times. I would take Pharoh Cooper over Odell Beckham Jr. 5 out of 10 times. And I'll tell you why. I don't think OBJ... well, it's more than that. I don't think OBJ is one of the best receivers in football. I don't even think he's in the top 10. He got famous for one catch on Thursday night against the Giants and a couple of monster games where all he did was run deep. He doesn't run good routes. He doesn't. Watch him. He runs what we call J routes. Instead of sticking the foot and turning sharp, he rounds it about. People have figured Odell Beckham Jr. out this year. They're going to play 10 yards off. They're going to play the streak or the vert or the 9, whatever you want to call it. And they're going to tell Odell, beat me short. And then they're going to come up and they're going to hit Odell Beckham Jr. And he's going to get frustrated because he can't get deep and get on the highlight reel. And he's going to pout and complain. And then you've gotten in his head and then he's totally defeated. I don't think Odell Beckham Jr. is a top 10 wide receiver in this league. I'm starting to wonder if he's a top 15 wide receiver in this league. And
well, I'll tell you this much. Odell can throw a better deep ball than I can.
Oh, for sure. Maybe that's what they do is move him to quarterback. Look, I don't know why people think Odell is this great wide receiver. I really don't. Because he isn't. He's a one-trick pony, and they figured that trick out. And you know something else? Pat Shurmur's figured it out too, and he's terrified. He doesn't know what else to do. There's no worse feeling.
I'll tell you exactly what you can do. I don't care how much you pay somebody. You can keep him on the bench.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Well, like I said, you trade him. You don't put him on the bench. You trade him. Look, if I'm Shurmur, I'm going to tell Odell Beckham Jr., prove that you're a top wide receiver. We're going to throw you on a vert, and you're going to outjump everybody for the football. I get him as many opportunities to get on the highlight reel as he can, and then I trade him. And I get maximum value out of him. Because right now, the Giants moving forward, I'm looking at their schedule right now. Give me a minute. I'm looking at a couple of things, actually. Let me just go to them. If you look at the Giants' schedule right now, they've got Atlanta next week. You can do those jump balls against Atlanta. Washington, you're not going to have a good day. San Francisco, you could do those jump balls. Tampa Bay, you can do those jump balls. And you get them traded. You get them traded by the bye week, which is week 9. That's the trade deadline now. You showcase him against Atlanta, and you get him out of town because he's not good. I shouldn't say he's not good. He's not great. He's good. But I would much rather have Cooper Kupp, Brandon Cooks, Pharoh Cooper, Galladay, Tate than him. And the list goes on. Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd. He's in the category of Dez Bryant. Everyone thinks he's better than he really is, and his play on the field doesn't match what everyone says he is. Am I wrong on OBJ?
20% yes, you are. And I say this because I would like to see Odell Beckham Jr. with an in-your-prime quarterback and not a past-your-prime quarterback. Because that can mean all the difference. Because, arm strength plays a difference with your quarterback. And if he's throwing you short, you got to take those short passes and try to beat the defender. Sometimes you're successful and sometimes you're not. Can Eli throw the deep ball anymore? No, you rarely see it. Eli is, 15, 20 yards at the most anymore. So I would like to see Odell Beckham with a Matt Ryan, with a Cam Newton, with
Eric, can you imagine?
Russell Wilson in there.
Could you imagine Odell Beckham Jr. in a Bengal uniform with that receiving core, that running back, and that quarterback?
I can imagine it. Bengals wouldn't do it.
Why wouldn't they do it?
I don't know why they wouldn't. I just don't see them doing that.
I mean, who takes problem children more than Marvin Lewis?
Yeah, I mean, that is true. They are. That is true. Send them to Buffalo.
Yeah. Stays in New York. With Josh Allen?
Yeah.
Okay, he has a howitzer. Prove it. OBJ, you can beat anybody deep. Prove it. Yeah, no. Do that 3 times a game?
We got a young quarterback. Send him to Tennessee. I'd love to see Mariota with a legit number 1 wide receiver.
Oh, man. Look, I am not saying OBJ can't help a football team. That's why if I'm the Giants, I do trade him. Because what you can get for OBJ is ridiculous. What you can get out of OBJ in the right circumstance is going to help your football team. All right. We've talked about the Giants. We know that the New Yorkers are losing their mind. I want to say one thing on Carolina. The Panthers, to me, are not an up-and-coming team, but a stable team. They remind me a lot of the Rams in the 80s. They're good enough to make the playoffs every year. Wild card team, division winner maybe, but they're going to be in the conversation every single season. And we'll see if they actually get there and what they do when they do get there. I will definitely put them in that category, and I'm looking forward to seeing. Look, Carolina's got to figure it out on the road first. And you want to figure it out on the road, Carolina? Here's what you do. Hand the ball off to Christian McCaffrey and throw it to Olsen and play defense like you have been. And pray that Luke Kuechly doesn't get another injury. As long as you do that, you're going to be fine. Cincinnati at home against Miami. I watched this game. I loved this game. So I'm going to say a couple things here. The Bengals are down 17-0 at halftime, and I'm like, oh, the Bengals are the same old Bengals. I'm going to have a lot of explaining to do on the show. Now, they turn around and they win this game. 27-17. Guys, if you're not sold on the Cincinnati Bengals yet, you need to stop drinking the Kool-Aid. You need to stop listening to NFL Network. And you need to start watching them play. I don't care what happens with Pittsburgh. Okay? I personally think the Bengals are going to win. But to come back down 17 when you had nothing going your way against a very good defense, and yes, I know they didn't look like it against New England, but that is a very good defense. That says a lot about your football team. Mixon is every bit of an impact player as I thought he would be when the Bengals drafted him. A.J. Green is a top-flight wide receiver, and Tyler Boyd has turned into a legitimate number 2 that the Bengals haven't had since Houshmandzadeh. Okay? Yes, I said it. I think
Sanu, maybe?
no. I think he's better than Sanu. I think he's better than Sanu. You don't?
I mean, it's 1 year so far, and we're not even halfway through it. So let's temper the expectations. Let me see him do it when the weather starts turning bad in Cincinnati.
Fair point. Fair point. The Bengals defense is getting stronger. They're getting healthier. And they've done something a lot of defenses aren't able to do, which is stay together and stay consistent. So I think this game is going to tell us a lot about the Bengals, but it's not going to determine, for me, whether the Bengals have turned a corner. The Bengals don't come back from 17 down previous years. They did. And to ignore that is to be negligent and grossly underestimating a football team. Guys, that's no small feat. I know they were home, but kudos to the Bengals. I think that this football team is a playoff team. I don't know if they'll win a playoff game, but they're making the postseason this year. And if you don't believe that, you're kidding yourself. This was a big win for Cincinnati. And I say that understanding the significance of this game against Pittsburgh. This game against Pittsburgh reminds me of the Rams going into Philadelphia or going into Seattle last year, right? They had to overcome Big Brother, as everyone kept saying. Well, the Bengals need to do this. If there's ever been a Big Brother situation, it's this game. But we'll get into that tomorrow. Big win for the Bengals. I liked what I saw from all three phases of their football team. Great comeback win. And Miami's got some answers and some problems that they need to figure out. E, take it away.
Yeah, Miami lost a golden opportunity to put that game away early in the second half, and they did it. They let the Bengals come back in. You know, give the Bengals all the credit in the world because they came back when they could have just held their heads down and said, okay, this game's over. You know, let's regroup. We got Pittsburgh coming in next week. But they did it. They took it to the Dolphins. The Dolphins lack a running game. They lack receiver help. Devontae Parker has not been healthy all year. Kenny Stills is not a wide receiver that you can count on game in and game out. They have a lot of holes on that Dolphin team. And the Bengals played the game like they knew that if they didn't win, it could hurt them not only in the division, but also in the conference. Because they got help from Baltimore. They knew Pittsburgh was going to take care of business. And they're like, you know, we got to take care of our own business. That's how you control your own destiny. You take care of your own business first and not rely on the help of others. Different Cincinnati team. They're playing a lot more inspired football. Joe Mixon came back at the right time because Giovanni Bernard is out 2 to 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. They have a good receiving tandem in Boyd and Green. And could they use Tyler Eifert? Absolutely. You couldn't use Tyler Eifert when he's on the field. That's the problem. He needs to be on the field. So now they're relying on C.J. Uzomah and Tyler Kroft, which they can rely on those guys. They don't need them to put up 100 yards and a score or two every week. They need them to be productive in the red zone, where they have that and where they can be. Marvin Lewis has a really good game plan going for the Bengals this season so far. And I like what I'm seeing. And I can't wait to preview that Bengals-Steelers game because I think that you're going to be very surprised and upbeat regarding the game that you can watch between the two AFC North foes. I was going to call them powerhouses, but with the defense in Pittsburgh, they're not really a powerhouse.
No.
They're offensive. They have a lot of offensive firepower, but they're not a powerhouse. Mm-mm. Cincinnati is doing it with a lot of no-names on defense as well. I mean, yes, I know Dunlap is not a no-name, and I know they re-signed Michael Johnson after cutting him. He's not a no-name. And Burfict came back from 4 games being off. He's not a no-name. But they're playing inspired defensive football. And that's what they needed. They needed their defense to show up in the second half against Miami, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah. No. I also want to make one comment here. Hold on, I'm looking for something. Cool. I'll have Cohen going on Thanksgiving. Sorry, I was looking at when I'm going to be playing Tariq Cohen for sure. at running back, and I got him going against the Jets in Week 8, and I got him going against Detroit in Week 12 on Thanksgiving. So those should be good games for Tariq Cohen, but sorry, I got off track. Getting back to this. The Rams were flexed out, if you guys were wondering. Week 7, LA at San Fran. That game's been flexed out of the Sunday night game in replacement for Cincinnati against Kansas City. And I got to tell you, I think it's a great flex move. To me, that game is worthy of prime time. And I'll tell you why. The winner of Cincinnati and Kansas City is going to be hosting the AFC Championship game. I believe that. Week 6 is going to tell us a lot about the Bengals. Week 7 is going to tell us even more. And I think Week 7 is going to tell us, Week 6 and 7 are going to tell us everything we need to know about Kansas City. The Chiefs play Jacksonville. They've got New England this week, and then they've got Cincinnati next week. Week 7. And I think for the Bengals, having Pittsburgh and then Kansas City after this game is going to really tell us a lot about those two franchises moving forward. All right, Oakland at the Chargers. Look, I'm not going to say a lot here. The Chargers looked like they needed to win this game. The Raiders looked like they didn't care if they won this game. And I think I'm shocked that Gruden and the Raiders are playing this badly. To our Charger fan out there, I will tell you this right now. Thank you for Melvin Gordon. He's killing it on my fantasy football team. And I think that the Chargers are starting to prove me right slowly. They got off to a slow start, but they're winning games that they're supposed to win, and they're beating teams in a fashion that I like to see, where they're using Phillip Rivers. They're winning like the Broncos used to in 96, 97 and 98. 96, 97, 98. They're throwing the ball, getting an early lead, and then leaning on the running game. And it's working for them. And their defense is only going to get healthier, and it's only going to get better. So moving forward, I have a lot of expectations for San Diego. I did it again. For the Chargers. But I'm more disappointed with Oakland, and I'm confident that the Chargers are going to be good this year. I just don't know how good they're going to be this year because the Raiders have been such a disappointment, Eric. Do you agree?
Oh, yeah, by far. And, it started when Gruden got signed, and then they never talked to Khalil Mack. That they really didn't have any conversations, and it just seemed like everything, all poop hit the fan, during the offseason pretty much right after Gruden got signed. It's like things just started unraveling. And, he took his 2008 mentality and brought it into 2018, and it's a different game. And it's a different game plan. It's different personnel. It's not the same guys who were, there's a much younger crowd in playing in the NFL now, and there's a lot of sense of entitlement from players, and I don't need to listen to the head coach, and a lot of guys are me first guys, and Gruden's trying to instill that it's team first, and it should be team first, but I think you got a lot of selfish players on the Raiders outside of Derek Carr. And, Derek Carr is only one person. He plays on the offensive side of the ball and can't play defense.
No.
They need those defensive players who want to buy into what Gruden is selling. And that's going to come when they start drafting again in April of next year. The Chargers did what they had to do in this game. Listen, they're sitting at 3-2. They're a great candidate. They can go 10-6, okay, and make the wild card. Because I don't think they catch the Chiefs. They're sitting 2 games back at Kansas City, technically 2.5 because they lost. Listen, the Chargers lost by 10 to the Rams. Hold on, let me rephrase that. They lost by 10 to the Chiefs in Week 1, and they lost by 12 to the Rams. They've been in every game that they've lost, so they've only lost 2 games. And I really only see two or three really tough games left on their schedule. They got a trip to Seattle. We've seen, Seattle can put up points when they want to. And I'm only saying it's tough because they scored 31 on the Rams. That's for another day. They got the Broncos twice still, and they go to Pittsburgh, and they got the Bengals at home, and the Chiefs again. And I think the Chargers, the way they play, they can win a couple of those games that they might be the underdog in. They don't have the easiest schedule, they don't have the hardest schedule, but they have a schedule to where they can go 10-6 and make a wild card game, or make it to wild card weekend. What happens after that? Really, it's football. Anything can happen.
Right.
But the Chargers took care of business in this game. They said, you know what? I don't care if this is a rivalry game. We're not playing this as a rivalry game. You're on our schedule. You're getting beat. And that's what they did. They had great defense against the Raiders. The Raiders had no answer for the Chargers. Eckler had a nice catch and run. The wide receivers were getting used sparingly, but they were there when they needed them. And Gordon did his thing. And Rivers is playing really good football right now. He's playing probably some of the best football that he's played in the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy's 35 years old. I don't want to say he's past his prime because I feel like he's still playing in his prime. Philip Rivers will let you know when it's time to pass the torch. He's not ready, and he's not slowing down one bit. It's not an Eli Manning situation where they're like, okay, well, Rivers can't throw the ball. Rivers is flinging the ball all over the place, but he's being smart with the ball, and he's handing it off because he's got a really good running back behind. He's got two really good running backs behind.
Well, just so you know,
I'm looking for the Chargers to make some noise in the West, and I think that and they beat the teams that they're supposed to beat. Again, 10 wins is not out of the question for that team.
No, it's not. And I'm trying to see something here. Yeah, Week 15 they play at Kansas City on Thursday night. So I think that could very well determine whether the Chiefs wrap the division up or the Chargers make it interesting. Look, the prime of your career, just so you guys know, they say is between the age of 28 to 32, at least it used to be. Now they say it's between the age of 28 and 34. So Aaron Rodgers is just on the tail end of his he's now on the back end of his prime. But I would argue that at 35, you're not in your prime, but you're still pretty good. And that's kind of where Rivers and Rodgers is. Look, the next game, there's not a lot to talk about here. Arizona at San Francisco. Josh Rosen looked impressive. The 49ers looked lost and looked every bit as bad as we thought they were going to be. They made a game of it early. I'm not sold on Wilks yet as head coach. I'm not sold on Rosen yet as quarterback, but it was good to see him get that first win, a 75-yard touchdown pass to the local kid, not Larry Fitzgerald, but Christian Kirk, who played football here at Hamilton High School or Chandler High, one of those two places. I can't remember. But he was a local kid. He played his high school football here. Big touchdown, great way to start not just a game, but getting that thing off and running. Look, the Niners are the worst team in football. And they will finish this year with a top 5 pick. And getting Garoppolo back next year, what they really need to make sure they solidify for him is help around him, specifically on the O-line, because their O-line isn't getting any younger. The 49ers, that is a crippling loss. And it showed. A game that I think they would have won and won easily, they end up losing. And the Cardinals, it's good to get that first win. I did some research, and I believe for the first time since 1999, not 99, sorry, for the first time since 1998, we've gone only, this is the quickest we've had every team with a win. So that's cool. Everyone's kind of gotten a dub under their belt, and now it's time to play football and really see who's good and who's really bad. And I think it's going to be a real tight race in the top 10. I think there's going to be a lot of teams kind of clumped there together. Wasn't impressed with the Cardinals' defense by and large against an inferior offense, and I certainly wasn't impressed with the Cardinals' offense against a defense that's been pretty much gashed all year long. So they got the win. That's all that matters. The Cardinals next week go on the road, or are they home? They go on the road to Minnesota. So the Cardinals have not beaten the Vikings in Minnesota since 1977 when they were the St. Louis Cardinals. They have never beaten the Vikings in Minnesota. I'm sorry. They've never beaten Minnesota as the Arizona Cardinals. Sorry, Eric. I didn't mean to take your stat. But
you took my stat. But actually, it was funny because the stat that I read was they haven't beaten the Vikings in Minnesota since Saturday Night Fever came out.
That's bad. So we'll see what happens next week. I don't expect it to be a Cardinal victory, but certainly they needed to get this dub because this is one of the few dubs on their list that they certainly could have looked at and said we have a shot at winning it. Eric, there's not a lot for me to say here. The 49ers are in trouble. This is why having a backup quarterback is important, and I would not be surprised if the 49ers make a play for a QB in the third or second round in next year's draft. Your go.
Yeah, these teams are going to benefit from being in the top five. The Giants are going to want a quarterback. The 49ers and Cardinals already have their quarterbacks. Somebody is going to hit the jackpot with a wide receiver out of Arizona State by the name of N'Keal Harry.
Yeah.
He's either going to go local or he's going to go to San Francisco. And Garoppolo's going to love him because Garçon's not going to be around forever. And Larry Fitzgerald won't be. I honestly believe this is Larry Fitzgerald's last year, so they're going to want to replace him. And what better way than you're going to want the kid there, especially if they pick before San Fran. But right now, San Fran would pick before Arizona because, well, Arizona beat San Fran. But there's always a second game on the schedule, and we'll see, who has more wins and whatnot. But, before the season started, if you would have said that San Francisco would have another top 5 pick, everybody probably would have laughed at you and said you're on crack. Well, they would have accounted for an injury that pretty much derailed their season if they even had, a shot at a wild card spot or not. But, Beathard's got to fill in. He's got to do what he can. Breida's been banged up. They need to rely on Alfred Morris. Get the ball out to George Kittle because he's your best playmaker, and then let your defense take over, which, they need some help on that defensive side of the ball. Arizona, same thing. A lot of their just utilize David Johnson for crying out loud. There, I'm done.
Yeah, exactly. Minnesota at Philly, big win for the Vikings. I knew this game was going to be a fun one, a rematch of the AFC Championship game. No, I don't think that the Vikings would have beaten Philadelphia if Carson Wentz was a starting quarterback. And no, I don't think if they had Kirk Cousins, they would have gone into Philly and won last year because no one was beating the Eagles last year after they got past Atlanta. They made that abundantly clear. They were in their groove, and there's no getting somebody out of it when they're in it. That being said, this was a big win for Minnesota to kind of prove that, hey, we're good enough to win now. And this isn't last year, and we need a W, and we're coming off of a tough game against the Rams. I called it. I said they would play the Eagles tough, if not pull out the victory. Philadelphia, they have problems. And their problem for me isn't that they can't beat up on the bad teams, because they can. They proved that Thursday night. My problem with Philly is, can they beat up on the good to great teams like they did last year? And I don't see it. Philly bounced back strong against the Giants.
I'm done because you're talking about the same things I'm going to talk about. All right, I'm done. Quick. Don't hang up.
All right. So, for me, what do you think? I'll shut up.
Well, I'll tell you this, that Minnesota has not been losing games because of Kirk Cousins and Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs and Kyle Rudolph and their running game. They've been losing games this year because of their defense. Their defense decided to actually show up and play a pretty decent game against Philadelphia. And Philadelphia, for about 2.5 to 3 quarters, looked like a bad football team.
Yeah.
They came back and made it close. But that's what happens when you get a lot of garbage time touchdowns. I'm not saying Philadelphia did that. They made it as competitive as they could be with the amount of time on the clock that they had.
Yeah.
But Minnesota was able to garner a couple of first downs, run out the clock, and not let Philadelphia get the ball back. Now, Philadelphia looked completely different 4 days later when they played the Giants, but that's what you got to do. You got to beat those good teams, and every now and then, and I mean, you're talking about this as the defending Super Bowl champions, but it's a game I thought they should have beaten Minnesota in. And I would have actually preferred Minnesota to lose in this game, being a Bears fan. But not everything can go your way.
Yeah.
However, Minnesota is still downright scary offensively. I mean, Kirk Cousins is playing great football, minus the fumbles for turnovers that has seriously been playing in what seems like every other game this season. But Thielen and Diggs, man, if you could find, I don't know if Charles Woodson and Jerry Gray could shut these guys down right now with what they're doing.
Yeah.
They just need a healthy Dalvin Cook because Latavius Murray obviously is not the answer in Minnesota. He's a good backup. He's a good one to spell Cook when he needs a breather, but he's not on the course back anymore. They need Dalvin Cook to be the guy to rely on to make this offense scary good, and they can't. Minnesota's defense is going to go itself up, and they did for the most part. And I look for them to get back on track against the Cardinals as well. However, they're still looking up at the Bears. They still got that tie against the Packers. And I think Minnesota is more of a roller coaster team because of that defense this year. And they're going to have great weeks, which I expect a great week from them this week. But they may have some more down weeks. And because they're going to face other offenses who are going to put up points.
Yeah. All right.
And so, yeah, I don't know. Minnesota impressed me a lot against Philly. And Philly was like, what's going on here? I mean, you don't look like a defending Super Bowl champ, but then they played Thursday night. It was like, whoa, hello.
Yeah.
That's Philadelphia, we all know.
Well, but again, it was against a bad team. And for me, I got to see Philadelphia do that against good teams. They feel a lot like the Rams did last year, that the Rams took care of business against the teams they were supposed to beat. But if you remember their 5 losses, they were against teams that were equal or better than them, minus the New Orleans game. That's the only one in Tennessee. Was the only 2 good teams I think the Rams beat, if I'm going to be fair about it, all year long. Yeah. So we'll see. I guess there were 3 because they beat Jacksonville too. And Jacksonville was obviously a good team last year. So, but it certainly wasn't in their favor against the win-loss record against teams with good records. Speaking of this Ram team, so guys, I had no worry that the Rams are going to lose this game. Even at the end of the game, I didn't have a worry that the Rams are going to lose the game. I figured they would punt. I'll get to that later. Me and Eric had a text message back and forth on that. But for me, the reason I didn't feel like the Rams were in any threat to lose that game is because I don't feel like Seattle was as good as they were playing in the first half. And the Rams were a second half team, and their defense proved it. They don't have Akeem Talib. They're playing with an injured Alex Barron. Those linebackers are still trying to feel their oats, and they're good, but they're not that great. And I don't know. Look, Ndamukong Suh's right. This is running defense is pathetic. And if that's something that Suh really prides himself on, then he needs to step up and make a play there. I personally think what they should do is put Brockers back at nose and play a bear defense with Donald and Suh playing over the guards, and just play the 46 defense, because you've got the receivers that can lock down the other team's wide receivers. You've got the safeties that can man up on tight ends and slot receivers. You've got the linebacker speed to go sideline to sideline. Put those 3 over the 3 linemen. Force them to not be able to double team. Send a linebacker on a delayed blitz, and you'll shut everyone out. So we'll see if they make that adjustment, because I don't like Suh at nose. It's not working out. So either the Rams need to shift to a 43 and put Suh and Donald at defensive tackle, and bring Brockers in to spell them, or they need to go to a bear front and just make that their every down setup. Now, that being said, obviously the offense looked good. There were a few things in this game that really got me irritated, okay? And, I mean, I was yelling so loud that I'm sure the neighbors thought that I was in a fight with somebody. I'm watching the game, and there were 3 things here that really, really got under my skin. First of all, LaMarcus Joyner throwing down the wide receiver on the screen pass and doing the whole throwing him down and picking him up off the ground. That being a penalty is Pathetic but understandable. It's a flag. It's the rule. Don't do it. I got it. Later on in the game, there's the down judge, the guy in charge of the sticks. He's standing no further from the play than I am the computer screen. Brandin Cooks gets hit, tackled. Then the ball hits him and his shoulder pad and rolls incomplete. And the line judge or the down judge just goes incomplete. Why are you not throwing a flag? It obviously was pass interference. Thankfully, the back judge throws the penalty flag and we get the penalty. But I'm sitting there screaming at the TV going, what are you doing? You have a flag in your pocket, throw the dang thing. You're 5 feet in front of the play, you see the receiver get hit, then the ball arrives, and you're waving it incomplete as if that's cool. Fine. Now the other two. The hit on Brandin Cooks is a penalty. It's a penalty. He lowered his shoulder while the receiver was going down and threw his shoulder in and his helmet into the guy's face. That was a blatant. It should have been an ejection, a fine, and a suspension. He got neither. And no flag. No flag at all. I'm like, we just got a guy concussed and knocked out because of a cheap shot on the wide receiver, and you're not going to throw the penalty. Brandin Cooks' concussion. Or Cooper Kupp's concussion. Here's the third one that irritated me. Right? Guy picks him up off the ground and drives him into the ground head first. You called it on the Rams, and rightfully so in the beginning of the game. No penalty. No penalty. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, what in the hell is going on here? How is it that obvious calls are... Look, I get it. We're a good football team. We don't need the benefit of officiating. But when there are obvious calls, you've got to make that penalty. You've got to throw the flag. So here's my takeaway from this game. If I hear anybody from the NFL or from the NFL Network or any announcer talk about player safety, you need to know they're full of crap. They don't give a flying rip about player safety. They don't. They don't give a flying rip. What they care about is player safety for their guys. What they care about is player safety for the quarterback. They don't care about player safety under any other circumstance. And if they tell you they do, they're full of garbage. I'm frustrated because I'm to the point where I want the game to go back to the way it was in the 80s. You sign a contract, you know the risks, suck it up, buttercup, and go play football. Or consistency with this ridiculous new modified NFL. I wouldn't be this upset if it was consistent. But it's anything but consistent. It's not even, let alone consistent. And I'm just supposed to sit there and be like, oh, it's cool. No, it's not cool. Now, about the game. Jared Goff is the NFL MVP. I'm going to keep saying it. The guy played out of his mind. And when he lost his two wide receivers, he led a fourth quarter comeback and won the game. Led a fourth quarter comeback and won the game. With backup wide receivers and a running game that was malfunctioning. With a defense that was short-circuiting. I don't know what else Jared Goff needs to do for people to understand he's not only the best quarterback in the NFL right now, he's the best football player in the NFL right now, and it ain't even close. And I'm curious to see, right now I'm starting to hear people actually mention him and MVP in the same sentence. I'm curious how much more momentum this is going to take over moving forward. Look, Todd Gurley didn't have the greatest game. He didn't need to. He got 3 touchdowns. Statistically, you could look at it and go, what are you talking about, Ed? Running the ball-wise, he didn't find those lanes. He didn't do those things that we need Todd Gurley to do moving forward. And once those 2 receivers were out, he had all the pressure on him. And Jared Goff said, you're going to make me beat you? Big mistake, because I'm going to beat you. And he did. Defensively, the Rams have some things they need to shore up. Marcus Peters is finally 100%. I don't think he has been. I'm curious to see how I'm actually going to make a bold prediction here, Eric. I think Marcus Peters is going to have 2 interceptions in this game against Denver. One for him and one for Akeem Talib, who can't play in this game because of his injury, which I know Akeem Talib is upset about. And I'm sure Marcus Peters is going to pick one up for his teammate. I have no doubt in my mind that's going to happen. So I tip my hat to the Rams. They played well when they had to. Now, my last thing, the 4th down call. Eric's going to tell you his position in a minute. I'm going to tell you mine. Then Eric's going to give his synopsis of the game. And then I'm going to tell you what McVay said after the game about this 4th down call. I personally was telling Eric I would have punted. Now, could I have been talked out of it by my players? Maybe. Probably. But my gut instincts in that situation said, you've got the best punter in football, pin him in deep. Your defense has shut them down in the 4th quarter and most of the 3rd quarter. They're not going to go up the field and beat you. So make them call their timeouts, which you've done. So now you punt the ball and you trust that your defense can get the job done. Not that I don't think McVay didn't trust his defense. I'm a conservative coach. This is a moment where a lot of you guys as fans probably would have been upset with me. It's the same decision Garrett made in the Dallas game on Sunday night, which we'll get to later, which didn't help him. It actually hurt them. But I just think you're on the road, the only call to make on 4th down is quarterback sneak. And the fact that I know that means that they know that. And that makes that call a risk. So for me personally, I told Eric I would have punted, and I stand by that decision. Now, the brass cojones on Sean McVay cannot be understated. That man has a set the size of the state of California. And I give him all the credit in the world because, hell, you're 4-0. If you lose this game, yeah, you get your division opponent back in the race. But are you really worried about the season in the end? Probably not. It's a road game. You'll make it up. But I don't know, man. Eric, you said to go for it. Walk us through it.
Yeah, I was all on Sean McVay's side of his decision. They actually put this game on out here after a couple of the other games are already over. And so I was watching. I wanted to see what the Rams could do. And the reason why I said go for it is because you've given up 31 freaking points already. So, yes, Seattle can go down and they can score on you because they've been doing it all day. Now, I say you go for the win on the road.
Yeah.
Okay? Yes, they could have been stopped. Goff could have fumbled and not gotten the 1st down. And Russell Wilson could have thrown a ball to Doug Baldwin. And they could have gotten the field goal range and kicked the field goal and won the game. Could have happened. But I want to prevent that from happening. So when I see it's 4th and 6 inches to go, to me there's no other logical call.
Yeah.
Because what happens if Hacker bobbles the ball or gets blocked? Okay? I want to keep that ball from not having to touch just air. I want it in somebody's hands. And I want it in my best player's hands. If it was 4th and 1 or 4th and 2, I may punt. 4th and 6 inches, I'm sneaking that ball up the middle, and I am going to make Seattle's defensive line stop me from going 6 inches.
Did you see the emotion on Jared Goff's face when he got that 1st down?
Oh, yeah, absolutely I did.
I loved it. I love the fact that he's calm, cool, and collected, but he's emotional when he needs to be. And
here's the thing. Now, what we're not talking about, and I'm going to talk about right now, is a sequence that led up to the sneak call. The Rams put out their punting unit, and they did so on purpose. Because the clock was running, they wanted Seattle to take their final timeout, which they did. Seattle bought into it. They really had no other choice. So then they go to the sideline. McVay sends out the offense. Seattle's like, crap. Well, we know we got to do it's a goal line stand. We have to stop it. They weren't able to stop it. Brilliant play calling, brilliant clock management by Sean McVay.
Yeah.
And that's what you got to do when you're a football team. You've giving up some points. And I mean, okay, Seattle runs the ball 58% of the time on offense. So Mike Davis and Chris Carson were having really good days. Now, if they gave the ball back to Seattle, who knows that Davis and Carson might not have been able to break off a long run. Okay, we don't know. Because the Rams never let it happen. So, hit my cap to the Rams. I'm done with predictions on the Rams because I said 42-6, and I also said they're going 16-0.
Yeah, you almost jinxed it.
Not my intention. It was a lot closer than I ever would have anticipated it. Because Seattle's got no defense. Obviously, we've seen the Rams put up 33. The Rams are averaging over 30 points a game, maybe even over 35 points a game. And so, no Earl Thomas, no Richard Sherman, no Cam Chancellor. There was another linebacker I know that I forgot his name. He's really good.
Irvin.
Not Irvin.
Wagner?
Yes, Wagner. Did he play the game?
Yeah.
Okay. So they still got Bobby Wagner out there. But they got nobody else. And I like their game plans that they're thriving up. And they know that they don't have an offensive weapon, so they're going to say, we're going to run it down your throat. And that's what you can do to the Rams. You can run the ball on them.
For now.
As sick as that is to say for now, when you have Donald and Sue up front, that you're not able to stop the run like we thought they could.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I mean, when Mike Davis and Chris Carson have big games against you, you need to shore up that defense.
Yes, you do.
Wade Phillips needs to take a step back, reevaluate his defensive game plan and how he wants to stop the run, and adjust.
Just do the bear front. I'm telling you, Eric, just do the bear front. You've got the three guys to do it. Donald, Sue, and Brockers. You've got the three. Bring Longacre down as a D end. Bring Abikwam down as a D end. You have Littleton and Barron in the middle. Walk up LaMarcus Joyner or Johnson if you feel that's a better matchup against the tight end. You're fine. I like the idea of having Johnson playing center field because I think Johnson is a great center fielder for the Rams. And I think he can go out and get the football. And you put pressure on the quarterback. Plus, Joyner's a fast little sucker that's hard to block. He can get in there and really lay out the quarterback. And no one's going to accuse him of putting his body weight on the quarterback because the quarterback's turds way more than LaMarcus Joyner does. But I just think that would be the route to go. We'll see if they do it. The other thing that I want to mention on this game, and I think this is important, is that McVay was going to punt. And Todd Gurley and Whitworth approached him and told him that he should go for it. And when the timeout happened, from what I'm understanding, Jared Goff didn't know any of this was going on, but a couple of his coaches kind of approached him, and I don't know if it was Sullivan or if it was Bones, Fossil, that said, just sneak Goff. And as the story goes, as I'm reading it, Aaron Donald, who was next to the defense getting ready to go out there, looked at McVay, and McVay, I guess, said something to the effect of, I trust the defense, and Donald said, why? If that story is true, I think it's absolutely hysterical that the team captain on defense looks at the head coach and goes, why? Like, what have we done to earn your trust right now? So there was definitely persuasion from a couple of key players and coaches on that staff that helped facilitate that. And I bring that up because there's no mark of a great coach more than his ability to trust and listen to his brain trust. Not every great call that a coach makes is made by the coach. Sometimes it's made by the players. Sometimes it's made by another coach on the coaching staff. And I give all the credit in the world to McVay for understanding that and doing it. I think he's doing a phenomenal job. Matter of fact, I have the Madden game when the Rams first moved to LA, and I usually coach them. And I'm actually going to be making Sean McVay, and I'm going to coach somebody else because I don't think I could have done a better job than McVay's been doing. And that's the ultimate compliment that I can give an individual. I'm excited because I've never had this kind of a coach in Ram history. I'm just so thrilled at what this guy's going to bring to the table, and he will be a Ram for life. There's no doubt in my mind about it. Anything you want to add, E?
No, I mean, big division win, tough road game coming up.
In the snow.
Possibly, yeah.
I'm loving that.
If Mike Davis and Chris Carson can have good days against the Rams like they did, I'm curious to see what Philip Lindsay and Royce Freeman can do.
Yeah.
Because that's the side of the ball I'm going to be most interested in watching is the Broncos' run offense versus the Rams' run defense. I have no doubt that the Rams can get out to a 21-0 lead because I know Denver's not coming back. The only way Denver comes back is if Goff throws 2 pick sixes in a row.
Yeah.
I don't see that happen.
I don't either.
Okay. There's really only one quarterback. When he throws a pick, you really have to worry about pick sixes, and that's Blake Bortles. He leads the league in pick sixes since he's come into the league.
That's crazy.
Nuts.
All right. Dallas at Houston, the Texas Bowl. A lot of fun. This game was a lot of fun to watch. Good, entertaining game. Gave the Texas fans everything they could have wanted. A 4th down and 1 call. The Cowboy fans need to figure out what they want to do as a fan base. They get irritated when Dallas goes for it on 4th and 1 against Philly in '95 and has a conniption fit. And then they get pissed off when the coach on 4th and 1 punts the ball. I guess, I don't know. You're on the road. You're going up against a defense that is a lot better than Seattle's. A lot of people are comparing these two games and what McVay did versus what Garrett does, and I don't think that's fair, and I don't think you can do that because it's completely different animals. I don't know if you agree with that, Eric, but it's completely different animals. So
each game is different in its own right. So if you want to compare this game to the Rams Seahawks game, you're barking up the wrong tree. It all depends on where the ball is, how much time is on the clock. The Rams weren't in overtime against Seattle, and Dallas was in overtime against Houston.
And it's Houston. The Rams and Seahawks, look, they can build this up as a rivalry all they want. The Rams care as much about the Seahawks as they do the Detroit Lions. There's history. There's relevance. It's not a rivalry. Dallas and Houston is an in-state rivalry. That is LA, San Diego. So I just think Garrett's getting a bad rep. I think Garrett's a good coach. I think Garrett's doing what he can. He's not the one responsible for Dez Bryant going bye-bye. He's not the one responsible for Jason Witten retiring. He's not the one responsible for the O-line being broken apart. And he's certainly not responsible for the drafting of Dak Prescott. So Garrett's got a lot of problems. And here's what's going to happen. Dallas is going to get rid of Jason Garrett. He's going to go somewhere else and turn that program into a dynasty.
Cleveland?
Maybe. I could see it. And I know he's high on Baker Mayfield, is Jason Garrett. Garrett's a good coach. And Dallas needs to back off. And they need to start pointing the finger at the man that the finger should be pointed to. And that's Jerry Jones. And Dak Prescott.
When you're owner, president, and GM, there's not going to be anybody out there who's going to say, well,
the fans. You're right. No one in the organization, but the fans need to back off of Garrett and start pointing out the problem.
Well, no, Jerry Jones has been the problem for years.
Well, not Cowboy fans, because they're riding Garrett.
You and I have been saying that Jerry Jones has been a problem for years. I don't know how many years ago I've said that Jerry Jones needs to fire himself as a GM.
Jerry Jones needs to get his butt back in the owner's booth and sit back and trust his judgment and his ability to find high-level management people to run that team. When he did that, he was a dynasty. He's good at that job. He can do that. I think Jerry Jones is a good owner, but he sucks as a GM and he sucks as a president. He needs to be the CEO, own the team, hire the right people, and let it go. Do you disagree?
I do not. I've said for years that he's needed to give up the GM duties for a while now. Hire somebody competent and be able to, be the GM that Dallas needs them to be. Because he can still sit back in the booth. He can still dictate and say, hey, I want to sign this guy. And the GM can make it happen.
Yeah.
Or I want to draft this guy, the GM can make it happen.
Well, my wife isn't around, so...
But here's the thing. Jerry Jones is too involved because he's the president and the GM. If he would sit back and actually give up the GM and president duties, I guarantee you the Cowboys would flourish. But hey, if they don't want to do that, I'd rather not see the Cowboys at the top again.
All right, so my wife's not listening, so here's the deal. Jerry Jones, I'm available to be your GM. You pay me $1 million a year. That's all I want. I'll have a Super Bowl dynasty. I'll have a Super Bowl in your hip pocket in the next 5 years. No, screw that. Next 3 years, because I'm keeping Jason Garrett as your head coach. Garrett, you're safe if I'm your GM. Jerry, call me. I'm available. I hate to say that because I'm not a Cowboy fan, but boy, you've got money to burn in Dallas. That is the place of all places for free agents, right? Outside of LA. I mean, Dallas still has that prestige that everyone wants. I hate the Cowboys, but it's bad for football that they're not on top. I'm sorry to say it, but it is. You need public enemy number one to be dominant, so you have your public enemy number one as a legitimate public enemy number one. New England, they've maintained that role for a while, but they have to cheat to be good. Dallas just was good, and they were in your face about it. And, they benefited from officials, but they won games because they were just better than you. New England wins games because they cheat and the officials ensure it. It's a triple whammy when you play New England. When you play Dallas, you had a double team against you, and you just had to figure out how to beat it. You can't beat a triple team. New England's dynasty is fake. It's propped up, and in my opinion, it's disgusting. But I won't get into New England. I hate Dallas. A part of me is glad that they suck, but a part of me looks at it and goes, this just doesn't feel right. Dallas lost this game for a lot of reasons. Jason Garrett is not one of them. Dak Prescott is another example, guys, on why we pump the brakes. Why we don't declare a quarterback to be a bust or a superstar after 1 year. You have to give it 3. He's had 1 good year, and now he's having his 2nd bad year, right? We can look at him and say, Dak is an okay quarterback that needs talent around him to be great or to be good. That's better. He needs talent around him to be a good quarterback. Otherwise, he's just okay. Ezekiel Elliott, they're wasting him, man. A running back's lifespan is 5 to 6 years. They need to get something around him. Anyway, anything else you want to add before we move on to the nightcap?
Yes. Dallas needs a legit wide receiver. And they haven't had a legit wide receiver in 2 years when Dez Bryant was fully healthy. As soon as Bryant went down last year and he's gone this year, Dallas has gone through the ringer. You can't win with Allen Hurns. You can't win with Tavon Austin. You can't win with Cole Beasley. You also need a pass-catching tight end. It really sucks for Dallas that Jason Witten decided to retire 2 weeks before camp started. Like, you want to know who's on your team and who's coming to camp?
Eric, come on. He might have made it a formal retirement, but what the hell is Dallas doing not preparing for that? Did you see him play last year? He was a shell of his former self.
Well, when you played 16 years, those last couple of years, you are a shell of your former self.
Right, so prepare for that.
Well, okay. But Dallas also made the biggest mistake in drafting Leighton Vander Esch over Calvin Ridley.
Yes.
It's their own fault.
Oh my God, dude! I was so shocked at that.
I understand why they drafted Vander Esch.
Why? No. Why were you not shocked?
I get it.
You get it?
Why they did. Hold on. Can I finish?
Yeah, go ahead.
I get why they drafted him. It doesn't make sense why they drafted him. So yes, Calvin Ridley should have a star on his helmet and not a Falcon. Not a bird.
Right.
But you can't go redo that because Dallas made that probably the biggest mistake that they've made in the last 2 years.
Look, Eric, here's why I'm shocked at that statement. Okay? You have Captain Concussion at middle linebacker in Lee. Right?
Listen, I'm not shocked by anything that happens in the draft anymore.
Okay, well, true. But here's the thing.
Because the Bears traded up one spot to draft Trubisky.
Okay. What I'm saying is you drafted a guy with a history of neck problems to replace a guy with a history of concussion problems, leaving the best wide receiver on the board. Like, no. To me, it doesn't even make sense. It's not even understandable. If anything, go get yourself a linebacker that's going to be around for a while. I have no doubt Vander Esch will probably be in the league for 3 years. That neck is going to act up and he's done. I was blown away. That's the only reason I kept interrupting is because I personally, there are moves that are like, WTF, what are you doing? And then there are moves that are like, there's no way, not even somebody high on crack cocaine makes that decision, let alone,
Come on, don't make fun of Michael Irvin like that.
Hey, the Coke machine's out of this, right? Look, it blew me away. I thought it was the dumbest move Dallas ever made. In the history of the draft, it might be one of the top 5 dumbest picks in the history of the game. Now, the Rams will forever have the number 1. You pass on Ndamukong Suh to get Bradford. The only good thing about that is Suh ended up a Ram anyway. All right. The nightcap. What a disappointment Washington was. I expected this to be a good game and New Orleans would win it, although I picked Washington because I'm an idiot. First of all, I'm so thankful. Mike, if you're listening, I'm sorry. I will be the first to admit I probably got the luckiest win in the history of fantasy football ever. I'm up by 4 points. And Alvin Kamara is starting for the guy that I'm going against. And somehow, I won. So, yeah. Up by 5, I think. Don't know how it happened. I'm thankful. Look, the Redskins, they are this year's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. They look great, then they look terrible, then they look great, then they look terrible, then they look great. I don't know what they're doing. This was a bad performance, and they did not look like the number 1 defense in football at all last week. Now, that being said, Norman has not had an interception since 2016. Let that one sink in for a minute. As far as the passing record goes, let me get this out of the way first. Congratulations to Drew Brees. Couldn't happen to a better guy. I am ecstatic that he was able to accomplish the record, and I think it couldn't have happened to a better man, to a better player, and to a better person. I'm not going to crap too much on the accomplishment the week that he got the accomplishment. I have nothing but nice things to say about Drew Brees. He is a surefire Hall of Famer, and he is one of the good guys in the league. All of that is true. But I stand by this. When you are in an era where you cannot touch the wide receiver, you cannot tackle the wide receiver until after he has caught the ball and is on the move, actively playing the game again. You can't touch the quarterback from head to toe. You can't fall on the quarterback now based on the new rule. And if you graze the helmet with your fingernail, it's a 15-yard penalty. I cannot sit there and say that this record has a lot of meaning. It's equivalent to somebody breaking the home run record after they move the fences in 200 feet, and once the count is 2-0, the pitcher can only throw a fastball, and that's it. Would anybody be surprised if the home run record got broke under those circumstances? So can we really be surprised that this record was broken? And it doesn't take away from the accomplishment. It's still 72,000 yards or whatever it is. But I am going to say this. Don't sit there and tell me that this is a, once in a lifetime record that we see get broke. I have a feeling that Drew Brees at some point before I die will be 10th on the all-time passing list. That's how insignificant, in the end, this record will be unless the league changes the way it's doing things. Now, Eric, I know you have a lot to say about this game. I'm literally done, and I will turn it over to you. I just want to say that I agree with what you're probably going to open with on what the officials did. I think it's despicable. It's disgusting. Get a goddamn clue. Okay? Understand the circumstances in which you're reffing. I'll let Eric explain.
Well, I wasn't going to lead off with that, but since you brought it up, I might as well. So, Drew Brees threw a touchdown pass to Tre'Quan Smith, which was blown coverage that ended up being the record for all-time passing yards. And while the Saints were celebrating, the refs threw a flag saying that excessive celebration. Hello, you just broke one of probably the 4 or 5
biggest records.
I guess you could say sacred. I don't know if the passing record is sacred anymore, but records in football. Passing record, rushing record, receiving record, sacks record, and I said, 4. So why are you throwing a flag? If I were Washington, I would have been like, decline. I don't care that we get it, they have to back up 15 yards on kickoff. Listen, if I'm a Redskin, I'm not happy that Drew Brees did it against me, but I'm going into the Superdome knowing you're only 200 yards away, and chances were really, really good that he was going to break it against you. So, let's not be stupid, NFL, and throw flags when celebrations like that take place.
Yeah.
If Todd Gurley plays another 15 years and breaks Emmitt Smith's touchdown record, or rushing touchdown record, are you going to flag him? Let's just get this out of the way now. Are you going to flag him? Yes or no?
No.
That's what I want to know. Second, Washington 7-2 all time at the Superdome playing the Saints. They left their team in D.C.
Yeah.
Like, Alex Smith looked like dog crap. They had no run game. Peterson got banged up. Chris Thompson was having a heck of a game until Alex Smith threw a pass to him where he got hung up to dry and got obliterated, so he's got a rib injury. Dotson, Crowder, and whoever else is a wide receiver on that team, whose name is not Paul Richardson, decided not to catch a ball. Jordan Reed caught one pass, was targeted twice. The Saints did a great job of blanketing him, so they need a ton of stuff. Defense, Drew Brees misfired on 3 passes all game.
That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable.
3 passes. I can't explain this enough. 3. 1, 2, 3 incompletions. That's unacceptable for any football. I don't care if it's a high school team that's out there. You misfire on that, you're having a bad day. You have a really bad day.
Yeah.
And you might as well just get that whole bad day out of the way. Now, the one thing that I would have done if I'm Sean Payton, I'd have been greedy in this game. And it might have been looked like I was running up the score, but the score was already out of hand. Drew Brees is 1 touchdown pass away from 500.
Yeah.
I would have let him throw and get that 500 touchdown. But you might as well get 2 things out of the way in one game. Passing record and get the 500 touchdown.
Yeah.
Now, I believe Peyton Manning has 539 touchdown passes, which is number 1. And I believe Drew Brees is going to break that next year. I think he'll pass Tom Brady for touchdown passes. I think Drew Brees will actually play another couple of years, and he'll have have a lot of records. I really don't see another quarterback breaking Brees' passing record, and I only say that because there's nobody in the NFL who's going to do it now. Rodgers is 35. He just went over 40,000. That is not going to play long enough. Philip Rivers, not enough time left.
You want to hear something crazy? Jared Goff is averaging 354 yards passing per game. If he sticks to that statistic for the rest of the year, he will break the all-time single-season passing record, and you know how big of a number that is. And that's in 1 year.
Isn't it like 5,500 yards by Brees?
Yeah. He'll break it. He'll break it. And with this offense and this team, I don't think it's out of the ordinary to think that Goff could really set these records in a big way. Mahomes, if he keeps up the way he's playing, and there's a lot of young talent in this league, Eric, that I just think with the way the rules are skewed, I don't know. I don't know that Brees is going to have that record. I don't know that Brees is going to be in the top 8 on that record by the time we're dead and old. I mean, time will tell, but it's a hell of an accomplishment, and you're right. It's one of the top 4. Anytime you're the all-time leader in one of those 4 categories, sacks, rushing, I would say 5, okay? If you're the all-time leader in sacks, in interceptions, in passing yards, rushing yards, and receiving yards, that's the holy grail of your position. It's nothing to snarl at. But I do think it's easier to do today than it was before. Personally. But great accomplishment for Brees. Are the Saints home after the bye week?
No.
Let me look. I got this right here. Hold on.
I can look it up.
I'm going to look it up right now. Hold on. I got the book right here. New Orleans is not. They're at Baltimore. So he might get the record there. Which is ironic because I think Peyton Manning broke the all-time passing record on the road after being 1 away at home as well. So we'll see if that trend continues. Anything else you want to add, E?
No.
Well, I'm Anthony.
And I'm Eric.
Go Rams.
And go Bears.
2 things real quick. Horns up and
Bear down.
And the last thing that I want to say, LT is close to 1,000 subscribers. Start telling your buddies. Get him to 1,000. He's at like 964 as of this morning when I saw it. LT, great show. Keep up the great work. You're awesome. All of our subscribers, we love you. April, you're great. Clash of the Horns, subscribe to his show. All of them. Anyone that has the Rams, you need to give them some love. But we appreciate all of you guys, and we hope you enjoy that this format is going to be NFL only moving forward. For those of you that like the college show, maybe we give it another go in a year, next year. But for the purpose of this, I think this is good. We'll do the previews for the games tomorrow. We hope you guys enjoy it and have a great one. Subscribe, like, comment, all of those good things. Out.